Your teams.
Hell! It is Barner! It is Barner! And he's gone!
The Beavers are the national champions!
Brandon, a three-pointer out front. Hit it! Yes, he did!
His take.
Here's what I think.
Matt Bagley. Matt Bagley.
AJ asks, what's your dream? Honestly, where I work now, in many ways, is a dream job. Got a pocket radio as a part of a school fundraiser drive when I was in elementary school. One of those things where, they ask the kids to sell so many pizzas or so many candy bars or something. But I sold a couple of things, and the prize that I got was like a Dollar Tree pocket radio.
Talking local sports.
And I would listen to 580 AM. We used to carry A's games, and I would listen to Dan Patrick's old ESPN show. And I thought, man, it would be great to do what they do. And so I always kind of had in the back of my mind, if I ever got the chance to jump in, I could really do some cool things at this station.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Presented by Medford BMW on 96.1 580 The Game.
If a coach makes the wrong call on fourth down, it's in the headlines the next day. If a general manager has a number 1 overall draft pick and they blow it on a bust, Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf, or I think about Kwame Brown, and a laundry list of players in the NBA loaded with talent but inexperience. They weren't ready. And their GM suffers for it, right? That GM will lose his job 4, 5, 6 years down the line. There are consequences to mistakes in sports, unless you're an official. I want to talk about this tonight. And I'm not mad about the local officiating. I don't want that to be the takeaway here. I don't want you listening going, I don't ever want to be an official. The local officials stink. Boo, right? That's not my goal. Those guys are volunteers. They work hard. They dedicate themselves, and they take a lot of fire from a lot of folks that they don't deserve. But the big-time professional officials out there, the refs in charge of determining a pass interference or not pass interference in last night's Seahawks mess, the officials in charge of determining a roughing the passer seemingly every Sunday this season, the officials in charge of what's a fumble, what's a catch. How about in the NBA, what's a foul? How about in baseball, what's a ball or a strike, right? What could be more fundamental to your sport than that? These officials get it wrong. And I don't think there's a way to reform it. I don't think there's a way to change it, right? Like, if a coach comes out in the media the next day and says, this official cost us a game, he gets fined. If a player comes out and says that, they get fined, or worse, they get suspended. And if you challenge the call in the moment, you get flagged or ejected. We need to talk about officiating. I think there's no more group more protected in all of sports than officials. And after last night, after the Seahawks had an opportunity to get back in that game, Russell Wilson finds a receiver deep, lobs one deep to DJ Dallas, and it was textbook defensive pass interference. The defender is literally slapping DJ Dallas's arms before he ever touches the football. He is interfering with the pass to DJ Dallas. He is preventing DJ Dallas from extending his arms and making a catch. You could not have a clearer definition of the rule. Defensive pass interference. And it happens right in front of an official 5 yards away on the sideline who can see it all in front of him. No flag. It cost Seattle a win last night. After that call, after a season that I think has been mired in miserable officiating in the NFL, after countless years of this conversation in baseball and basketball as well, I think we need to realize American sports is a problem. We need to fix officiating. We need to reform officiating. So I want to talk to you tonight, 541-630-4792. I don't have a ton of time this week. I won't have a Friday show. That's Christmas Eve. I will be on the road. I will be with the love of my life, driving down to Medford, trying to zip through the snow and spend a holiday with my parents. No show Christmas Eve. I have an hour tomorrow, and then Thursday Night Football boots me off the airwaves, 5 o'clock. That's pretty standard. Football season, 1 hour Thursday show. We're all used to that by now. And then I have 2 hours with you. And I want to focus the front of those 2 hours on this topic. 541-630-4792. Maybe you watched what happened last night that I think cost the Seahawks a win. Could have cost them even more. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're a fan of the Raiders, and you've been robbed by roughing the passer calls all year long. Maybe you're a fan of, say, the Niners, and it's been holding calls that you don't think were holding calls. It's been fumbles that should have been non-fumbles. It's been catches that shouldn't have been catches. There are examples of this all over football and all over sports. How do you fix officiating? 541-630-4792. Catching up on the text line. Just right now, it's just a couple people chiming in saying hello, saying good job, good show. You haven't heard anything yet. I mean, we got 2 hours of fun here. Kyle Clements will join me at 5 o'clock as we talk about some real happenings in the local sports scene the week after Christmas. Abby's Classic, that means high school basketball play-by-play back on the radio. Gosh, it gives me chills saying that. I haven't covered a basketball game in almost 2 years, so I'm excited for that. And we'll talk about all that at 5 o'clock. We'll also get into a really crazy week of sports. NBA Christmas Day on the docket. Oregon State had a bowl game last Saturday. We'll talk a ton about that. The Raiders, the Niners, the Seahawks. So many teams can still talk themselves into a playoff. I don't think Seattle can after last night. We'll talk about that. And if anybody wants to talk about fantasy football, I'm not that guy. I've never been fantasy football on the radio guy. But I could be. I'd like to brag about my team, so I'll give you a chance to brag about your team. I am 2 wins away from a $500 prize, so I like my fantasy league right now. I'm wondering if you feel the same way about yours. Big story here. I didn't start the show with this, but I knew I wanted to lead the opening segment here. Sam Vidlak. He is a great kid from a great family and an even better story. He was a quarterback at Hidden Valley High School in Murphy, just north of Grants Pass. He was a very lightly recruited 3-star prospect. And I think he only got that 3rd star. 1 out of 5 stars is how they do it. You know, ESPN, Rivals, 24/7, all the recruiting gurus out there. They gave him 3 stars very late in the progress. It would be like in the NFL, bumping someone up from being a 7th-round flyer, Mr. Irrelevant, to all of a sudden he's a day 2 pick, 2nd or 3rd round. He gets that 3rd star at the same time that he becomes courted by Jonathan Smith and the Oregon State Beaver football program. And among a few schools that had interest, not a ton of Power 5 schools with interest, he has an offer to go to Oregon State. He takes that offer. He signs on the dotted line. I thought he looked really good in the Beaver spring game, and then works in the offseason, has a year under Jonathan Smith and a year under Brian Lindgren as a play caller to learn the offense, and there was a lot of hope for the future about Sam Vidlak to someday, maybe not in 2021 or 2022, but someday be the starting quarterback in the orange and black in Corvallis. That day may never come. Reports surfaced on Monday night from Carter Bonds with Oregon State's 24/7 sports affiliate that Sam Vidlak was going to transfer from Oregon State. He's jumped into the transfer portal. Now, Jonathan Smith might lure him back, right? We saw this happen with Dan Lanning at Oregon, but that's a rarity. It doesn't happen every day. I think you have to assume at this point, if he's in the portal, he's not going to stay with the Beavers. And then the second thing off of that, to me, the big story, to me, what makes this compelling from a local radio perspective, a Southern Oregon kid with a bright future who could someday have been the starting quarterback of the Oregon State Beavers, leaving the Oregon State Beavers. I think the story there is why. And did he make the right decision? I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. I know we have a ton of Beaver fans in Southern Oregon that thought the same thing I did. He made every throw in high school, was an incredible player at that level, gets an opportunity of a lifetime to play Division I, Power 5 college football. That doesn't happen to local kids every day. And I really saw a lot of Jonathan Smith in him, right? The head coach of the Beavers. Undersized when he played quarterback back in the day. At one time, he was a walk-on at Oregon State. He didn't have anybody believing in him either. Right? Didn't have all the stars, didn't have all the recruiting sites all wowed and floored by his abilities. He just had to put a helmet on, put his pads on, go to work. And he did so. But it didn't happen overnight. It took time. And I hate to say this. I love the family. I love the story. And I know word is going to get back to them. And please, if you tell them this, make sure you tell it the right way. Make sure you tell the whole story here. I am not saying that this is a decision that will be regretted. But I do think right now on its face, it was the wrong decision. I do think right now this was potentially impatient. This was potentially rushed. I would have waited a year. I would have looked at this and said, Jonathan Smith embraces open competition every year. That is his MO. It's what he's done from day one. I know because I've covered him from day one. His first fall camp in August of his first year, he had an established starting quarterback, Jake Luton. And he had nobody behind him, nobody worth winning that job instead of Jake Luton. But Jonathan Smith felt it was fair to have an open competition at quarterback. And he did it the next year, even though Luton had earned the job, won the competition the year prior. And he did it the year after when his heir apparent, Tristan Gebbia, was the obvious person to have that job. And he did it again this year. Same story. Gebbia had won a prior competition, looked well enough in the Beavers games the year before, was a part of why they beat Oregon, right? And he still had Gebbia and others go through a competition. I have no doubt Jonathan Smith will have another open competition at the quarterback position when they get ready for spring ball. I don't see why Sam Vidlak had to leave. I don't see why you jump at a better opportunity elsewhere when you had a great opportunity right there in front of you in Corvallis. I think he's a great kid. I think it's a great family, great story. But I just don't know why you leave Oregon State right now. Not after 1 year. I think they needed to wait a little bit longer, give it a little bit more time, and see if he could have won that job next year. And then if you can't, then maybe you go jump in the portal and do what's best for you. 541-630-4792. I'd love your thoughts. Again, I don't think it's a move they will come to regret. He'll land on his feet somewhere. I don't know if there is a Power 5 Division I school waiting in the wings there. I think if that was what you wanted to do, you stay at Oregon State. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW. Let me know what you think about that. 541-630-4792. Do you watch NBA Christmas Day games? Does that meet your fancy at all? I'm going to be on the road, so I have to admit, I'm going to miss the morning ones. Those are usually sleepers for me anyway. I will catch the Warriors-Suns game, and I think it's going to be a playoff preview. We'll talk about that tonight on the show. Also want to know, obviously, how your Christmas shopping is going. You're probably driving around on the road screaming at the morons in traffic in front of you. That was my job yesterday. Oh, man, I had to get that hate out of my system. So now I get to talk about sports, and we'll just kind of take that in a totally different direction, right? We can talk Christmas shopping. We can talk NBA Christmas Day. How about this topic for you? Oregon State played a bowl game on Saturday. They lost that game, and here's what I think that loss says about the Beaver program right now. There's some good, there's some bad, and we know there's something to build on. That's headed your way next. The Seahawks have a little less clarity. We'll talk about their loss and what it means as well on the other side right here. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW on 96.1, 580, The Game.
Fast, reliable internet is essential for online education, remote work, healthcare visits, and our quality of life. Do you live in a rural area and have slow internet speeds? Funds are on the way to improve broadband services in rural Oregon. Jackson and Josephine counties need your help to make that happen. Please take an online survey at jcor.us. It takes about 2 minutes. That's jcor.us.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno-country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Listen, my life changed because someone was there to get me to use drugs. No one can understand. Whether or not they've struggled with addiction themselves, people seem to think that having someone who will listen is gonna help make it better. I'm realizing that I need help.
I'm listening.
I need help. I'm realizing that I think that having someone who will listen is going to help make it better. Whether or not they've struggled with addiction themselves, people seem to understand. No one can get me to use drugs. My life changed because someone was there to listen.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
More than 7.7 million American teenagers participate in high school sports every year, including about 101,000 here in Oregon. They're all learning essential life lessons, like the importance of hard work, time management, and self-discipline, skills that are helping them become better leaders and more active, responsible citizens. This message presented by the Oregon School Activities Association and the Oregon Athletic Directors Association.
The JR Sport Brief is on CBS Sports Radio.
I don't care if these players are out here cheating. I don't care if they look for a leg up. I expect it. With all of the money that's out there, all of the money that's potentially on the line, all of the money that they can go out and make, is it right for them to go out and cheat? No. Is it honorable? No. Do I fault any of them? No, I don't. It's something that I have accepted.
Weeknights at 7 on 96.1, 580, The Game.
Can you feel it?
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1, 580, The Game.
Hey, Thursday Night Football tomorrow is special. We have 2 different audio feeds of the game. The first one, the national one, Westwood One sports coverage of Thursday Night Football, but we air all season right here, 96.1, 580 The Game. Yeah, it's going to stay right there, 96.1, 580 The Game. Pre-game coverage starts at 5, kick around 5:15, 5:20, Niners and Titans. There is a second feed of the game that will air on KBOI, one of our sister stations at the Stephen Media Group building in between Medford and Jacksonville, where all of our audio originates from. That station, 95.7 KBOI, will be airing the 49er feed, not the national one. So if you are just Raider fan, Seahawk fan, a little more casual interest in the Thursday Nighter, I recommend 96.1, 580 The Game. But if you're a Niner fan, listen to the boy, 95.7 FM. If you're a geek out there, I'll throw this one out there too. I mention this every time I can, by the way. If you are a broadcast geek, if you like play-by-play on the radio, like I do, listen to 95.7 FM. The better play-by-play guy is going to be on 95.7 tomorrow night. That's Greg Papa, Niners radio guy, Bay Area radio legend. I love him. And I'm biased. I mean, he covered the Raiders for over a decade. So that's where I'm really speaking from here, is my heart as a Raider fan. All the memories, all the miserable Sundays that he helped make a little less miserable. He's an outstanding broadcaster. He's incredibly entertaining. And if you've never heard play-by-play on the radio, you might have fun listening to him tomorrow. Anyway, Oregon State lost a bowl game. I want to talk about this, even though it's been a few days now. Can we say after that loss that the Beavers are the worst team in the Pac-12? No. If they had won, could we say they are the favorites to win the Pac-12? No. You couldn't really glean that much from the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. But I think one thing is obvious for Oregon State. Their lines lost the battle. Their offensive line struggled to open up lanes on the ground for B.J. Baylor and Trey Lowe. At times, Chance Nolan lacked protection. And their defensive line, it was ugly. I mean, Utah State, when they wanted to run, they ran. They had no problem prying open lanes and getting to the second level and getting in situations where their physicality, I think, overmatched Oregon State. Here's something to build on for the Beavers. You're Jonathan Smith. You have recruited a caliber of skill player that I think is good enough. Find Tegan Cotoriano and Luke Musgrave at tight end. Find Trey Lowe at tailback. We talked about Sam Vidlak in the opening segment of the show. The key, I guess, would be retaining a player like him who now is in the portal. But my point is the Beavers have gone out in recruiting and found skill guys that they can develop over time and integrate into that lineup and contribute. The problem for Oregon State is, can you do the same thing on the lines? You have great coaching. Jim McCulloch might be the best offensive line coach in the Pac-12, and that's even before Mario Cristobal left for Miami, by the way. But a great coach with bad players can only do so much. The point of the matter is, in a bowl game against a group of five school, against Utah State, Oregon State got out-physicaled. They got beaten in the trenches by a program that should have no business beating them in the trenches. They need to improve their recruiting of offensive linemen and defensive linemen. They need to go get the four-star guys out of Utah. They need to go get some tougher guys out of Cali. I think Jonathan Smith needs to work on his recruiting. He needs to improve the big guys in the trenches for Oregon State to take that next step in the Pac-12. Otherwise, they're going to have moments where Utah State just plays better inside. And it wasn't just Utah State. I think about Cal. I think about Oregon. There were times this year where Oregon State wanted to run the ball and couldn't. Wanted to protect Chance Nolan and couldn't. And even before Chance Nolan, when they wanted to protect Sam Neuer, and Purdue got pressure on his face all game. Couldn't protect him. That's on recruiting. That's on the talent level at Oregon State. And I think that needs to improve. 541-630-4792. Text comes in on the line. Quote, how do you like your Portland Trailblazers so far this season, Matt? Well, you might find this telling, but they're not my Trailblazers. I think they're your Trailblazers. I talk about the Blazers because my show is based in Oregon, and they happen to be a team in Oregon. I've never been that big of a Blazers fan. Like, I'll root for them casually because I want, when a Portland area team, when an Oregon area team wins, I feel pretty good about that. I want them to do well. I don't feel good about the Blazers this year at all. Just what a mess that's become, where a general manager, Neil Olshey, forces through a coaching hire that was dubious at the time. Even if Chauncey Billups' record is out of the equation, even if the headline drama about what he was accused of doing didn't happen, didn't exist, Chauncey Billups, the basketball coach, was the wrong hire. That was obvious in the summer. That was obvious way back. But he was Neil Olshey's friend. So Neil Olshey hires his friend, make sure his friend gets that job. Becky Hammon was more qualified. I thought that even without her, Mike D'Antoni was more qualified. But Neil Olshey wanted his friend. So he hires the wrong coach. Then your GM gets forced out. You have an interim GM who I think is in over his head, right? He's going to be bombed with calls at the trade deadline about Damian Lillard this and CJ McCollum that, and he's never had to answer those phone calls before. And you have a roster that wasn't that good to begin with. It's just a mess. And then you factor in that the owner may or may not be that involved, right? Like I've heard Seahawks beat writers talk about how Jody Allen is going to make a decision on Pete Carroll and John Schneider. I never hear the Blazers beat writers. I never read the beat reporters in Portland talk about Jody Allen that way with the Blazers. She's the last person involved on a decision. I think she's pretty absent with regards to the Blazers' ownership and management. And so I think what you have right now is a franchise that is in disarray, total disarray. The Cowboys have a vision every year. And do they execute that well? Not really, but they have a vision. They start every year aiming for a championship. Same goes for Robert Kraft in New England. The Patriots aim for a championship. That is their vision, year in, year out. Say what you will about the Buss family. They have enough drama for a reality series if they ever want it. And that HBO movie about the Showtime Lakers might come close enough. But the Buss family has a championship vision. The Lakers need to win championships. They establish that goal at the start of every year. And you know what? More often than not, they get that goal done. They get a championship or get close to a championship. I don't see that vision in Portland. The coach wants one thing done. The owner wants another thing done. There's no GM right now. None. And the players don't know what their future is. Damian Lillard wants to win a championship. Is he going to win it there? He doesn't know. CJ McCollum wants to win a championship. He doesn't know if he'll be there tomorrow. The lack of vision in Portland, to me, is at the root of everything. But, yeah, it's a mess right now. So what do I think about my Blazers? Well, they're not my Blazers. Even if they were, I wouldn't be that proud of them right now. Some more topics to get to here on the show. Let's talk Seattle for a minute. What's next for the Seahawks after that loss Tuesday night? You have the first losing season in the Russell Wilson era, which on one hand, wow, that's brutal. But on the other hand, you kind of want to be proud of that. Do you bring the band back together for one more year? Do you say the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era can't end like this in what is still a pandemic season? In a season that featured injuries, in a season that featured bad officiating? Do you bring the band back together if you go 7-10 or 8-9? Or do you use this season, the first losing season of the Russell Wilson era, to make drastic changes? I want to hear from you. 541-630-4792. I think the only hard part is Russell Wilson. Pete Carroll has been a great coach for a long time, but I think the game has moved on from him. I think that what the NFL is now, high-octane, quick-tempo passing offenses, is beyond the way Pete Carroll wants to play football. He wants to win, say, the Bill Belichick way right now, where the Patriots have an incredible defense and they have a cheap, young, smart quarterback that plays it safe, doesn't make mistakes, and they play smash-mouth football, protect the football on offense, and they do enough to win more often than not. That's how he wants to play. But he has Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett, right? We all know Pete needs to win and needs to play the way that, say, Andy Reid's Chiefs play in Kansas City, or say what's happening in Indianapolis, what's happening in, say, Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, where you have a quarterback and you have a bunch of weapons and you run everything through them. That isn't Seattle right now. And I think you have to look there first. You have to say, Pete, you are at fault. You need to go. We can do better. I think that's fair. I think you can say the same about John Schneider, their general manager. Great GM a decade ago. Find Richard Sherman in round 5. Find a bunch of starters on dates 2 and 3 of the draft. Tons of talent. Trade down multiple times and add picks and use those picks wisely and build the shell of a Super Bowl contender. That was John Schneider at his best. But what else is he known for? Whiffing repeatedly at the top of the draft. If the Seahawks drafted as well in round 1 as they do in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But Rashad Penny, first-round pick for a marginal tailback that isn't a feature back. Sometimes he's not featured at all. Sometimes he has 0 carries, right? Disappears for games at a time. That was a first-round pick. Or I think about how the Seahawks last season needed help in the secondary, needed help in the receiving corps, needed help on the offensive line, all over the line. I mean, just take your pick. Russ needed protection, and the Seahawks drafted Jordan Brooks, outside linebacker. They didn't really need help there. They had K.J. Wright. They had an all-pro. Now, I like Jordan Brooks. I think he's a talented and capable defender. But again, it speaks to John Schneider. He's kind of losing his fastball. The game is moving beyond him. Everybody's drafting corners and receivers. Linebackers are barely on the field anymore, right? When are you in a 4-3 base defense in 2021? On the goal line, maybe? On 3rd and short, maybe? But not all 3 downs. Not when you play the Chiefs. Not when you play the Titans. Not when you play Las Vegas. They can't run the ball. They got to throw it. And the Seahawks are drafting an outside linebacker. It was a silly move. I have no problem if Pete Carroll goes. I have no problem if John Schneider goes. I think that's deserved. They are at fault for this team. I do have issue if Russell Wilson goes. If the Seahawks clean house up top, hire a new coach, hire a GM, and the next guy says, I want a new quarterback, I think that's a problem. If Russell Wilson wants to go, okay, I get it. He's deserved that. He can take his pick wherever he wants to play. You win a Super Bowl, you win games as long as he's won games, that's your right. If the coach that comes in trades Russell Wilson and wants to get rid of Russell Wilson, then I think you have a real problem in Seattle. You don't give up a franchise quarterback unless you absolutely have to. And I think Russell Wilson is still a franchise quarterback with a lot of wins left in his pocket. 541-630-4792. I blame the coaching. I blame the GM. I'm not ready to blame Russell Wilson. I'm not saying you bring the band back together one more year, but keep Russell Wilson as long as you possibly can. And if Russell Wilson wants the band back together one year, I think you have to acquiesce to that request as well. 541-630-4792. Southern Oregon Sports Talk. Let's keep that train going next. Plus, the Seahawks may have lost, and their playoff hopes are obviously crushed, but that's not the story in the rest of the NFC West. Let's talk Cardinals, Rams, and, of course, I know we got you out there. Lots of 49er faithful in the Rogue Valley. The 6th seed seems real now. Let's talk about that 6th seed and who the Niners might play when they get it. Who do you prefer in the NFC wildcard round? Plus, we got to talk about what Dan Lanning is doing at Oregon. It's unreal to me. His work ethic is off the charts. I'll tell you why next. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW. 96.1, 580 The Game.
Would you like me to come for the holidays? Hi, this is Josh from A Affordable Royal Flush. Most people don't plan to have their septic guys show up for the holiday meal, but it does happen. Your septic system could be working just fine today, but with extra bathing, flushing, washing due to the guests in the house, plus the additional groundwater from seasonal rains, the perfect storm can be created, causing your septic system to be forced over the edge. This, unfortunately, is when I get my invitation. Septic systems should be pumped every 3 to 5 years before company comes for the holidays. We hope your holiday gatherings are memorable and not because we came to visit. You can trust the professionals at A Affordable Royal Flush for all your septic system maintenance, repair, and installation. Our family's been serving the Rogue Valley since 1995 with the right service at the right price. Call 541-772-3389 in Medford or 541-479-6935 in Grants Pass for a free phone estimate. Have a septic system? Think A Affordable Royal Flush. A Royal Flush beats a full house anytime.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I feel like if I didn't have anyone to push me, I wouldn't give a bother to do it. I got one milestone down the drain, and now I got to work on the next. I see the future is really bright for me. I feel like it doesn't matter the age, as long as you go back and get it done. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
No one gets a diploma alone. You have more support than you realize. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place. And then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Jim Rome is on CBS Sports Radio.
The Phoenix Suns are good, really good, and extremely tough. They are built for this. Their offense is good, but they get after you on defense. They'll lock you up, and they will punish you in transition. I bring this up because the Suns were supposed to be a team that was inexperienced when it came to the playoffs. A team that was supposed to melt under all the pressure and expectation. They're that good, and they are that dangerous.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon on 96.1, 580 The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580 The Game.
Wouldn't it be crazy if the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era in Seattle collapses because of a terrible officiating call? Because of a pass interference that wasn't called on a Tuesday night game in a pandemic year? That seems crazy to me. Like, again, I think John Schneider's record shows the Seahawks could do better. They could get a better general manager. Pete Carroll's record shows the Seahawks could do better. They could find a better head coach, someone with a better grasp of offensive football in 2021 and how to stop it. On the other end, where the Seahawks have struggled, Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp had a field day in the second half last night. You could find a better coach out there to scheme those plays out. I don't think you find a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. I don't think there's a better option out there right now in the draft, in free agency, anywhere than Russell Wilson. I would do whatever you have to do to keep Russell Wilson happy, including if that means keeping Pete Carroll and John Schneider for one more year. To be fair, I said the same thing in the opposite this summer. I said, if Russell Wilson wants Pete Carroll to go, you pack Pete Carroll's bags and you drive him to the airport. You give him the pink slip, whatever you got to do. Russell Wilson should get what he wants. You're not finding another Russell Wilson anytime soon. He's the best franchise quarterback ever in Seattle. And he will be the best franchise quarterback ever in Seattle for a long time after he's in Seattle. I firmly believe that. I want to hear from you. 541-630-4792. Got a couple of things to tell you about this segment. Let's start with a workaholic, Dan Lanning, the head coach of the Oregon Ducks. I thought Mario Cristobal was bad. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I think 3 years ago, because this is pre-pandemic, 3 years ago, I was taping a podcast with Justin Hopkins. You know that Scoop Duck podcast we do every week where we talk about the Ducks? Anyway, we have a tradition where we do a signing day podcast the day after signing day. When Oregon has signed 10, 15 players in a given year, and here's their position, and here's where they're from, and here's all the hype they got on the recruiting sites. And it's like the equivalent of back in the day, where if you didn't watch ESPN's coverage of the draft, you just open up your newspaper the next day and all 255 names are on it of here's who your team picked in round 1 and here's who they picked in round 7 and everybody in between. And you're just like frantically learning who all these players are. I used to love doing that as a kid. Even though, obviously I sat down and watched the whole draft show because I was pretty crazy that way, but okay. In college football, you have signing day, and you have the post-signing day reaction. So we would tape a signing day podcast, and one year, I think 3 years ago, we got Mario Cristobal to call in. And I will never forget this. It was unusual because I was told beforehand that Mario was going to take vacation with his family. And he did. They were at some resort in Miami, which really should have told me everything I needed to know about Mario Cristobal's future. But I didn't think anything of it at the time. All I know is the coach is calling in from a resort. His wife is probably trying to nap and relax. His kids are probably wanting to go on the beach and have fun. And he's calling into a geeky, skinny podcaster kid from Medford and this guy in Central Point who talks recruiting with him from time to time. And he's talking for an hour, talk your head off in this podcast, for an hour about all of the signees of this Oregon signing class. I thought, this guy is insane. That is too much work ethic. That's somebody that doesn't know how to take a day off. I'm getting shades of that in Dan Lanning right now. I'm wondering, did Oregon just find the next Mario Cristobal? Somebody that is a relentless worker, to a fault almost, in Dan Lanning. Consider the fact that he's still the defensive coordinator of the Georgia Bulldogs. He's a defensive coordinator of a team playing in 9 days for a shot at the national championship game. They have a football game in 9 days to go to the national championship game. And Dan Lanning is scheming and game planning for that, getting his team ready, as I have no doubt. But he's also clearly chugging coffee, burning through his Rolodex, and making every phone call he possibly can for the Oregon Ducks. They're filling out this coaching staff. Today they added a defensive backs coach. They are reportedly about to add an offensive line coach from the NFL, a D-line coach from Nebraska, a co-defensive coordinator from Baylor. I've been reading a lot about another co-DC with some college ties. Basically, Dan Lanning is not sleeping here. Oh, and there's the offensive coordinator he hired from Florida State. He's going to have a full coaching staff by the time he even leaves Georgia for Oregon, right? He's still double-dipping, working 2 jobs in one. But the work that he's putting in, I just wonder, like, What are you doing? Where do you find time to do this? And I wonder almost if it's a little too much work. Maybe I'm crazy in saying that, but I'm curious what you might think. 541-630-4792. Like, I can say this now because he's not the head coach of the Ducks anymore, but if I could pinpoint one flaw with Mario Cristobal, it's that I think he burned people out. I think that relentlessness, that constant, dogged work ethic on your day off, the day after National Signing Day, when your work is done and your family wants to go on a family vacation, Mario Cristobal is calling into a podcast and talking about recruiting for an hour. That's Mario Cristobal 101. That is the most Mario Cristobal story I could possibly give you. That's how obsessed with football that guy is. And I thought it lost him coaches sometimes, good coaches, that just, they weren't wired that way, right? When the season is over, when signing day is over, when there's a moment to take a deep breath and relax and pause with your family, they wanted to take that moment. And he never did. And I know it cost him some coordinators, some position coaches, and some relationships in the coaching world. And I fear that might happen for Dan Lanning. But right now, you got to be impressed. He's filling out that Oregon staff. He's addressing an issue there of who's going to be the next leaders for all those players. Who's going to be the position coaches for all these players wondering what their futures are. Dan Lanning is coming to that charge, answering those questions, and you have to like it. 541-630-4792. Let's wrap hour number one on these topics. I want to get back to what I think is a very big local story, a local standout high school football star that got to go to Oregon State. I believe had a future at Oregon State as a starting quarterback, but is now entering the portal, Sam Vidlak. I want to talk about the what, the why, and the was. Was this the right move? Sam Vidlak in the portal, potentially leaving Oregon State. I'll let you know about something great we've got on the radio next week. And let's talk about the Blazers and NBA Christmas Day. All headed your way next. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW. Oh, and that Niner conversation. I knew I was forgetting something. Let's talk about them next. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW. 96.1, 580 The Game.
Do you want low prices on wine shipped right to your door? TotalWine.com, America's largest independent wine retailer, now ships to Medford and Ashland. Explore our wondrous selection of 8,000 wines and find something you'll love at amazingly low prices. Whether you're looking to enjoy a full-bodied Cabernet from Paso or crisp Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, TotalWine.com has you covered. With great wines shipped right to your door. Shipping available on wine only. Exclusions and limitations apply.
So if you're like me and still have some last-minute shopping to do, you need to check out Kohl's. I got my husband the green Fitbit Versa 3 for $169.99, found some great toys for 50% off, and got silver jewelry my mom is gonna love for just $17.59. I even saved an extra 20% and got Kohl's cash. So I guess you could say I got everything just in the nick of time. Get it? Select styles. Ends December 24th. Price valid on green Fitbit Versa 3 only. Toys and Fitbit. Coupons do not apply. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
If you own a
gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearms storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
From opening night to Super Bowl 56, don't miss a second of the NFL's biggest season ever. Hi, this is Kurt Warner of Westwood One. Join our crew each week for the best primetime NFL action. Thursday, Sunday, and of course, Monday Night Football. Listen to the NFL's brightest stars on Westwood One, the exclusive radio home for every primetime NFL game. Right here.
Covering football all year long, 96.1, 580 The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1, 580 The Game.
I want to tell you about something cool we're doing on the radio next week, and then I have a couple questions I need to address on the text line. It's been almost 2 years since I've gotten to cover a high school basketball game. I can't believe that. I feel terrible admitting that. We didn't cover high school basketball last spring because high school football drained the life force out of me. It was so hard. So hard driving down Portland to Medford every Friday, having no fans in the stands, having sometimes the players, you didn't know what jerseys they were wearing because they'd have to bring in freshmen or JV players out of nowhere. And the games were just tough to cover. The games just weren't the same. The energy, the passion, it just wasn't there. It was missing. It was really hard for me to work in all those conditions last spring. So I had to just say, hey, it's going to be a COVID year. It's going to be weird. We're not going to cover high school basketball. Let's take a deep breath and move on. We're going to make the plunge to cover high school basketball again this year and get back to what we've done in years past. And that starts Tuesday. The Abby's Classic annual holiday basketball tournament that's held in Medford every year the week after Christmas. It's one of my favorite events on the planet. North Medford and South Medford hosting a basketball tournament every year. I love this, and I can't wait to cover it again. We have all 3 South Medford games. One is going to air on News Media 99.5 FM, 880 a.m. Tuesday night. The other 2 are going to be on the Game. We have all 3 North Medford games all on the Game, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I think we're going to get some good basketball. One of those teams is top 10 in the state polls. The other one has been in the honorable mention of those polls and just kind of bouncing back and forth to that top 10 this year. So 2 really good teams. Could be a north-south battle in the final on Thursday night. I think it's going to be a lot of fun on the radio regardless. So keep your ears tuned for that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on the Game. Wrapping up hour number 1, I had a question on the text line that ties into what I wanted to say about San Francisco. Quote, do you like the 49ers beating Tennessee tomorrow night? To me, the obvious answer is I like the Niners. And it's not just because I got Niner fan listening, but out of the 2 teams in that matchup, Titans and Niners, I ask myself, who do I trust more? Do I trust a Tennessee team with an offensive coordinator that has been maligned in his career, Todd Downing? Do I trust a Titans team that will be without their number 1 tailback, Derrick Henry, and maybe without their number 2 guy for good measure? They got some injuries at that position. Or do I trust a 49er team with no question marks in play calling? A quarterback that, you know what, is he an all-pro? No, but they can lean on him. And a bevy of tailbacks. You know the Niners are going to run well no matter who has the ball because their line is incredible and the scheme is rock solid. I trust the Niners. And I'll say this. The win they had against Atlanta, that was clutch. The Falcons were hungry. The Falcons came hard. And they shoved a team out of the playoff standings. They basically killed the Falcons' playoff hopes, fended them off, and got a leg up on everybody for the 6th seed. So now you can really talk about that 6th seed. It's not just a pipe dream anymore. I think the Niners are going to be the 6th seed, and I think the Niners are going to be a very tough out in the playoff because of how reliable their offense is. Are they going to put up 30 points and 500 yards and 5 passing touchdowns? No. But no matter who's the back, you know they're going to get 4 or 5 yards a pop. You know that offensive line is going to make things hard on your defense. They aren't going to give up sacks. They aren't going to have holding calls. You can trust the 49ers to move the football and challenge your defense. I think that makes them a problem come January and the playoffs. I want to hear from you. More next hour. I got Kyle Clements talking all things sports right here.
You can buy the best and say for sure that'll make you happy, don't you know? And we came along with this little song so you know where to go.
Hey, it's Lamont here from Orly Stoves and Spas. Have you been thinking about a new wood or pellet stove? Come in now and start saving big on your heating bills. Orly's has Southern Oregon's largest inventory of wood, gas, and pellet stoves. With over 80 models in the showroom, we have something for everyone. Hurry into Orly's for a record-breaking 26% tax credit off qualifying wood or pellet stoves and installation. Are you thinking about a spa or swim spa for this Christmas? Orly's has you covered. We are Southern Oregon's largest Cal Spa dealer with over 50 units in stock now. Don't forget to ask us about our easy financing. Orly's Stoves and Spas at the corner of Delta Waters and Crater Lake Highway. Are you a qualified technician or installer? Orly's is looking for a few good people to join our team.
Do you want low prices on wine shipped right to your door? TotalWine.com, America's largest independent wine retailer, now ships to Medford and Ashland. Explore our wondrous selection of 8,000 wines and find something you'll love at amazingly low prices. Whether you're looking to enjoy a full-bodied Cabernet from Paso or crisp Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, TotalWine.com has you covered. With great wines shipped right to your door. Shipping available on wine only. Exclusions and limitations apply.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says I'm a catch more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Opinions? Zach Gelb's got them.
Hearing Russell Wilson say that he never wanted to leave Seattle, that's like me saying, hey, I'm going on a diet. I don't want ice cream. But Ryan, if you're in an ice cream store and you see vanilla chocolate, Ben & Jerry's fish food, and then chocolate chip cookie dough, I don't want it because I'm trying to lose weight. But if you see those 4 ice creams, go ahead and bring them to the office and maybe we'll have a little ice cream party.
Weeknights at 6 on 96.1 580 The Game.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The Forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is your home for the Beavers.
Stevie races front court. Shoots for three for the win. He hits it! The Beavers win! He hits it!
KTMT 580 AM and K241CA 96.1 FM Ashland.
Your teams.
It is Barner. It is Barner, and he's gone.
The Beavers are the national champions.
Brandon, a three-pointer out front. Hit it! Yes, he did!
His take.
Here's what I think.
Matt Bagley.
Let's talk about Theo Epstein, general manager of the Red Sox 20 years ago. And he helps Boston break the curse of the Bambino. Then he gets hired by the Cubs, helps them break the Billy Goat curse. They win the World Series. And now Theo Epstein has stepped away from baseball. I want to point out a hunch that I have about this. I have no evidence, I have no inside sources, but just basic glancing at who he is and what he's done, this looks an awful lot like a sabbatical.
Talking local sports.
You ever had a sabbatical? I've never had one in radio. My mom, a bridal seamstress. My dad has worked in the software industry. They've never got one. They've deserved one. A lot of people have deserved one. And I think Theo Epstein deserves one.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Presented by Medford BMW on 96.1 580 The Game.
Let's kick off hour number 2 with a friend. He's Kyle Clements. He broadcasts high school sports on the radio for us. Covered South Medford football this fall and in the spring as well. And he's gearing up for what I talked about last segment, the Abby's Classic High School Basketball Holiday Tournament, which starts on the radio Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here. We'll have South's opener Tuesday night on the home station for South Medford Sports, 99.5 FM, 880 AM KCMX. They're following 2 games Wednesday and Thursday right here on the Game. And then I got North Medford all 3 nights right here on the Game. So want to talk to Kyle, want to pick his brain on that and gauge the excitement level there for getting high school basketball back on the radio. But I'm also just curious, like, it's a really impactful time in the sports world. You've got the MLS Cup soccer championship in the rearview mirror. Timbers in a thriller, but they couldn't win it. You've got baseball in a lockout. You've got college basketball on the precipice of conference play. A lot of great storylines there. College football about to have the playoff in 9 days. And I keep going back to this thought in the NFL. It's been a long season. It's been an arduous season. But we only have 3 weeks left in the season. And then the playoffs are underway. Kyle Clements with me. Kyle, out of all those topics, or maybe there's another one that I didn't mention, what's the biggest one in your world?
Yeah, I think I'll just keep it right here in the Pacific Northwest. I think one of the biggest stories around these parts has been the Seahawks. And just, I don't want to call it a failure of a season, but, I mean, Russ is finally back and healthy, and he just doesn't look like himself. Pete Carroll kind of, it's almost like he doesn't know what he's doing anymore. The Rams are obviously a very, very tough opponent. And to go into L.A. and to come out with the result was always going to be a tall order. But you just kind of look at the team and you wonder if the rebuild is coming next year. Is Carroll on the way out? It's going to be a very interesting offseason for Seahawks fans.
Oh, no doubt. No, out of all the teams in the league, I think their offseason could be the craziest. I love playing hypotheticals. If you were in charge, what would you do?
I don't think the locker room, this may come off a little rude, I don't think the locker room has looked at Pete Carroll the same since he threw the ball on the goal line in Super Bowl 49. Mm-hmm. I think that's how far back it goes. I think the players on that team, I don't think they look at him the same. I make a coaching change if I'm in charge at Seattle, and maybe that's a little rushed after, Russ's first losing season since he's been with the team. But you have to start somewhere, and I think that's where you start.
Yeah. You mentioned Super Bowl 49, Marshawn on the goal line, but they don't give it to him, and the rest is history. You're a Patriots fan. What was that moment like for you?
Oh, man. I mean, what a roller coaster. You have the Jermaine Kearse catch, right, that happens just a few plays earlier where the ball bounces off of Malcolm Butler's helmet 5 yards up in the air, and then Kearse comes down to it, and you're thinking, oh, man, it's David Tyree all over again with the helmet catch, and it's just never ending. And then the rookie, Malcolm Butler, to come up with, just an incredible interception, just topped off the night. It was incredible. But, that's the point we were talking about. Just left me wondering, you've got the best back in the league at the time in 2014 in Marshawn Lynch. And, I think that's a decision that's haunted Pete Carroll to this day.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Kyle Clements, my guest. He covers high school sports for us on The Game and on our sister station, 99.5 FM, 880 AM KCMX. We're just kind of running the gamut, having fun with him here on a Wednesday, on a short week for me because I got Christmas shopping and Christmas adventures headed your way Friday as I try to battle the snow and the traffic. How's your Christmas shopping going, Kyle?
Oh, man, I've got to do that tomorrow. Luckily, I can hit downtown Ashland, and downtown Ashland has just a ton of cool shops to go into. So I'll be taking care of that bright and early tomorrow.
I was asking this question to my wife earlier. I'll throw it to you, too. Who was the hardest person to buy gifts for this year?
Definitely my mom. I can only buy her so many candles,
Right.
So, yeah, maybe I switch it up this year, and I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Your mom's out there, and I say this to everybody listening. Moms need a hug because I'm the same way, man. I get my mom crutch gifts every year, that a gift that you give them when you don't know what else to give them, and it's candles or get her a nice Bible or Bible cover or the one that I have as a crutch gift for my mom, and I'm embarrassed admitting it, is plants. I always know I can always get her a plant, like a cool house plant, if I can't come up with anything else. But, yeah, maybe I got to get her something more this year. Let's go back to, some sports conversation here. NFL playoffs 3 weeks away. Your Patriots are in the thick of the playoff chase right now. Are they exceeding your expectations, or do you think they still have some room to climb the standings?
I couldn't be happier with the way the season's panned out. After a 7-9 season last year, the thoughts start to creep in my head. Maybe it was more Brady's, with the dynasty, and maybe it wasn't all Bill. But I mean, Belichick has erased all those thoughts that were in my head. They've been fantastic this year. On top of the AFC East. Now they have a big game coming up against Buffalo that will kind of determine the AFC East. Yeah. I believe last time they played, Mac Jones threw 3 passes. That's just incredible. I mean, very exciting times ahead, and hopefully they can win the AFC East and host a playoff game.
Yeah.
Because regardless of the form that the Patriots may be in, it's always going to be difficult to go to Foxborough and come out with a result.
No doubt. Hey, as the playoff picture starts to shape up, I'm wondering, every year there's that team nobody wants to face. Could be your Patriots, could be somebody else. Who do you think that team is right now?
So I'm going to give you 2 teams, but my first team, I'm going to give you the Chargers. Herbert looked fantastic against the Chiefs in that primetime game. Did they win the game? No, but Herbert's really starting to prove himself as one of the top, dare I say, 5 quarterbacks in the NFL currently. Mm-hmm. And I would not want to run into a healthy Chargers team in the playoffs. No way. Yeah. The other team is the Indianapolis Colts. Healthy Jonathan Taylor. Carson Wentz is exceeding expectations so far this year, and their defense and O-line is only getting better. So, I want to stay away from – I want no part in the Chargers or the Colts.
Yeah, I think that's right on. Just for LA, you have what every team wants. I've always said football is a team game, but if you have a good team and you have a great quarterback, you can go all the way. And they have that great quarterback. They can bail them out 3rd and long, 3rd and a mile. He can make a miracle happen. And then with Indy, you have that great team. Do they have a great quarterback? Not really. But I love their play calling, and I love Jonathan Taylor. He's the best back in football this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Jonathan Taylor, he's just your classic every down back, right? So 1st down, he can run it up the gut for 4 yards guaranteed. 3rd down, he goes out into the flat, catches a pass. He's so versatile, and Indy, that stadium can be loud. If they can, I don't think they're going to be able to host a playoff game, but if it comes down to that, I would not want to travel to Indianapolis. That dome can get loud.
Yeah. Kyle Clements with me. He is going to be broadcasting some high school basketball on the radio next week. It'll mark the first time in nearly 2 years that we get to broadcast high school basketball on the radio, so I think it's a hell of a milestone for us. Have you done much research on the Abby's Classic so far, my friend?
Just a little bit. I was able to see the bracket that you sent over, and I think it's really cool when you get the 5A, 6A matchups. Teams that, normally wouldn't get to play against each other. It's possible a team like North Eugene and North Medford could meet in the final, and that's 2 schools who would never play each other in any other sport. So it's a very good litmus test. And then, you have a school from California coming up, Red Bluff. Nobody really knows who they are, what they're about. So it's going to be a really exciting time.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I love that angle, too. Like, you get this covering high school sports, but there are rivalries and traditions when you play the same schools every year, or you might have had a history playing the same school for years and years and years and years. And then there are schools where you just never play them, and you don't have that history. So there's a chance they get to make that history next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool for Ashland to be able to play against South and North as well. Yeah. 5A, 6A teams, they never get to play each other, although they're but a 20-minute drive away from each other. Some of these kids may have grown up together. So it's going to be a really exciting time. Abby's Classic is, every year just a great tournament. Great way to start the season for a lot of these teams.
Yeah. Hey, can I pick your brain on the Ducks for a minute? Mario Cristobal goes to Miami. Dan Lanning right now shuffling 2 jobs. What's your take on them?
So, I won't lie. When Cristobal left for Miami, that's a gut punch right there, because you have a well-established coach, an amazing recruiter. And it's not like he's leaving for Notre Dame or Alabama or UCLA. He's going to Miami, who hasn't been relevant since the 80s or the 90s. So that's kind of a gut punch. You start to think, well, what does that say about Oregon? But then Oregon goes and lands an amazing hire in Coach Lanning, who, I'm very, very happy with. There were some names thrown around before Lanning got the official hire that, kind of made me cringe a little, kind of made me, okay, well, does Oregon want to be serious about winning national championships year in, year out? And I think Lanning's the perfect hire.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Oregon State, they lose a bowl game last week, and they lose a quarterback to the portal. How do you feel about the Beavs?
Yeah, Sam Vidlak, a local kid, also, by the way, Hidden Valley, out of Hidden Valley. Always tough to, lose a quarterback who especially, I think, could have, tried for the number 1 spot next year. But, maybe there were other things going on in the quarterback room that we don't get to see. I watched the bowl game. Utah State's a very good team. You can't have any complaints about the way the Beavers played.
Yeah.
I actually thought they. And then their Beavers are going to be losing Tegan Chitorano, I believe is his name, to the NFL draft, one of the standout tight ends for the Beavers. So they'll have to definitely do some recruiting and fill that spot.
Yeah, lose Tegan Cotoriano to the draft and lose Sam Vidlak to the transfer portal right now. Questions there for Oregon State, as mentioned by Kyle Clements. Kyle's got play-by-play duties next week. The Abbeys Classic. He'll be covering South Medford games. Tuesday night's South game will air on News Media 99.5 FM, 880 AM, Wednesday and Thursday. He'll be right here on these airwaves with me, 96.1, 580 The Game. South Medford basketball voice, Kyle Clements. Kyle, I'm thankful for your time tonight. Loved talking sports with you, and I can't wait to shake your hand and chat in person again next week.
Yeah, hey, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait. And as always, Matt, thanks for having me on. Great time.
All right. Kyle Clements, talking sports. He'll have play-by-play duties next week. Can't wait for it. Up ahead next, I want to talk about something great we've got going Saturday right here on the radio. And then let's go back to the Niners playoff hopes with that 6 seed looming large. Let's talk NBA Christmas Day and Dan Lanning's future with the Ducks. Headed your way next. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW. 96.1, 580 The Game.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bradshaw from Ear Care Dental. It's nearing the end of the year for most dental insurance plans. Now would be a great time to come in and take advantage of those benefits before losing them. Investing in your dental health will continue to benefit your overall health for years to come.
If you don't have a dental plan with your employer, Premier Care Dental offers our own dental in-house savings plan that may help. Do you have missing, failing, hurting, or broken teeth? Let Premier Care Dental give you a healthy smile. Premier Care Dental also offers a complimentary consultation that includes an exam and x-rays, and if you mention this radio ad, you will receive your first implant for $9.90 or your first crown for $7.90. Restrictions apply, and all promotions depend upon your clinical exam. We also work with most insurance providers. Premier Care Dental has 4 Southern Oregon locations in Ashland, Medford, Grants Pass, and Klamath Falls. Call us today, 541-708-0600. Again, that's 541-708-0600, and at premiercaredental.com.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Hi, Mom. Is Claire's birthday party today? Me again, Mom. Where did I put my history book? Hi. Sorry, forgot one last thing. Sometimes it's hard to concentrate. At school, I start looking out the window, and then I forget what I was supposed to be thinking about. I know it seems like I don't care, but I do. It's just difficult for me. Love you, Mom. Bye.
Join parents and experts at Understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive. Brought to you by Understood.org and the Ad Council.
Strong takes. JR's got him.
The Dallas Mavericks need to get a secondary ball handler and scorer. Mark Cuban will do any and everything to win another championship. He already told Rick Carlisle, hey, I'm not getting rid of a coach just to get rid of a coach. Luka Doncic is 22 years old. He has a bright future in front of him, and all he needs, better teammates.
Weeknights at 7 on 96.1, 580 The Game.
Can you feel it? Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580 The Game.
541-630-4792 if you want to chime in. I had this conversation with Kyle Clements last segment, local play-by-play voice. We were talking about how this is just such a fun time to be a sports fan. You've got NBA Christmas Day games on the way. You have baseball in a lockout and all the suspense there. Hockey, trying to deal with COVID, the NFL trying to deal with COVID, right? I haven't even talked about that subject on the show tonight. And then you've got what I think is the big one. Like, for me as a fan, when I think about the Raiders winning Monday night in Cleveland, the follow-up in my brain is, can they win 3 more games? Week 17, week 18, right? Can they win the last 3 games of the season? I think the same thing about, say, Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who just a minute ago was named the starting quarterback of the Pro Bowl. So congrats there to Herbie. Can they win their last 3 and make a push towards a championship? And then you've got stories in the NFC, like the fact that the NFC West is razor thin right now. Cardinals, Rams, Niners, and then Seattle right in the basement. But all of those teams are going through the same thing. 3 games left. Anything can happen in 3 games. I mean, heck, ask any Raider fan you might know, right? Ask any one of us tortured souls. Our team went 3-0 to start the year. Anything can happen in 3 games. There's 3 games left. Anything can happen. And so, to me, that's the big story in sports. If you want to talk about it, if you've got thoughts on what's going to happen those last 3 games of the year, let me know. 541-630-4792. And if you want to talk about something else, we can do that too. I've always said it's your show. It's Southern Oregon's show, not mine. Southern Oregon Sports Talk. Let's talk about a Southern Oregon area kid getting an opportunity, and after a year, moving on from that opportunity. I think that's the Sam Vidlak story in a nutshell. I remember when I was a freshman in college. Now, I didn't play sports. I always preface this example with that statement. I didn't play sports, but I think this experience is universal. I thought I knew everything. I was 18 years old. Couldn't wait to move out of my parents' house. Couldn't wait to have my own apartment or my own dorm room, because that's where I lived. I lived in the dorms at Oregon Tech with a bunch of other sure-headed 18-year-old know-it-alls. I couldn't wait to have the freedom to be able to go on dates whenever I wanted to and obviously eat whatever I wanted to. If I wanted to have a cup of coffee at 7 at night, I could do that. If I wanted to go walk to Burger King and get a thing of cheeseburgers and some fries and then come back and wash it down with a Red Bull and work on my code for my programming classes at 10:30 at night, I could do that. Or I could spend that time playing Minecraft or Halo or whatever I wanted to do, right? Video games often won out in that battle, and that's one reason why I'm talking on the radio with you and not, running the wheels of some mega corporation right now. But anyway, I thought I knew everything when I came to college, and I was ready to use all that knowledge and all that freedom to do everything. And then I realized I didn't know everything, right? I realized it's hard to do your laundry, do your dishes, learn how to cook. It's hard to suddenly have that freedom. I can go on all these dates, so I'm trying to hit on all these chicks. That was difficult for me, right? Balance that with my classes. It was hard to balance the fact that if I didn't want to go to class, I didn't have to go to class. It's not like high school, where if you skip high school, you get a call to your parents. The school will say, hey, little Johnny didn't show up to algebra 3rd period today. Why? That doesn't happen in college. My professors don't really care. The dean of students doesn't really care. Financial aid doesn't really care. As long as they're getting their tuition money, you could skip the whole 10 weeks. And so, I'd be sitting in my room playing video games and chugging Red Bull and doing stupid things, making bad decisions. I had to grow out of that. I had to learn beyond that. And I'm not saying that Sam Vidlak is making the same dumb mistakes that I am, but I do think there was potentially some naivete in assuming that an 18-year-old freshman could jump in to the quarterback room at Oregon State and be named the starter. If he and his family decided to have him transfer out of Oregon State because he wants to start. And I'm not saying that's why, but I have to assume that's why. I have to assume that's the reason. I think they're making a mistake. I think that what you need to do in that situation is you need to understand you're not going to get that opportunity at 18 years old. Sam Vidlak was a 3-star recruit from Hidden Valley High School, as Kyle Clements pointed out last segment. That's a small town. It's a small school in a state that's not known for high school football. And out of all the schools in America, Oregon State offered Sam Vidlak. He didn't have opportunities in the SEC. He didn't have a lot of other opportunities in the Pac-12 or in other Power 5 conferences, but he had an offer from the Oregon State Beavers. And I think if he waited a year or two and developed at Oregon State, there is a chance he could have turned that offer and that experience into an opportunity to start for the Oregon State football team. Now he's in the portal. You don't get that starting opportunity right out of the gate. Ty Thompson, 5-star recruit, all the hype in the world, comes from a much better state for high school football, a much better program for high school football. All the scouts were watching him. All the coaches wanted him. He didn't even get an offer to start at Oregon this year. If he couldn't get it, why get Sam Vidlak at Oregon State? I think patience would have paid off tremendously in that situation. And again, I'm not trying to bash the kid. I'm not trying to bash the family, but I would have waited. I would have waited at least one more year, given Oregon State one more shot, and then, you see what happens after the following year. If you still can't get a shot at the starting job, then you move elsewhere. Just not right now. 541-630-4792 if you've got thoughts. Let's talk about Dan Lanning for a second, head coach of the Oregon Ducks. First order of business for him, to me, is plugging holes on a sinking ship. Mario Cristobal goes to Miami 2 weeks ago, and immediately you saw two things. You saw Oregon plummet in the recruiting rankings because the recruits that were committed to Oregon all realized they needed to reevaluate their options. The coach that they were going to sign up and play for 4 years or more was now on the other side of the country. So did they want to still play for that former school, or did they want to go play for the coach's new school or another school, right? You saw that happen. But you also saw Oregon players who already were on the Oregon program, already had scholarships at Oregon, looking at their future and going, my coach just left. Do I want to leave with him? Do I want to stay for the coaches that are left behind? Do I want to go somewhere else? And you saw players transferring or declaring for the NFL. And here's where Dan Lanning has worked hard these past few nights, trying to pitch players on staying at Oregon. I think that's pivotal. You have players like, say, Mikhail Wright at corner that are pondering whether or not to go to the NFL. For good reason. Great measurables, great tape, great practice player. I mean, that's what I said about Javon Holland for 4 years. It got Holland a second-round draft pick. I think Mikhail Wright ends up in round 2 or even better. You've got players on the offensive line debating their futures. You've got players in the receiving corps, players in the backfield like Travis Dye, who I've said for years could be better in the NFL than he is in college. You have a lot of players right now pondering, do they want to play for Dan Lanning? Do they want to play for the Oregon coaching staff next year? Or do they want to try their hands somewhere else, college or the NFL? What he's doing is reaching out to these players and grinding, working, trying to keep them at Oregon. And I think it's wise. Every player you keep is one you don't have to recruit. Every player you keep is one you don't have to recruit. We see this in pro sports all the time. Countless examples of, say, look at the Panthers. The Panthers had Cam Newton 2 years ago. They let him go They spent big money on Teddy Bridgewater because they needed a quarterback. And then they traded Teddy Bridgewater, traded for Sam Darnold. Again, they needed a quarterback. And they wound up signing Cam Newton in the middle of the season anyway. If they had just kept Cam Newton, they wouldn't have needed to replace Cam Newton. They could have just had Cam. And multiple draft picks and all the cap space that they spent on those quarterbacks would have saved them a lot of headaches. A lot of headaches. If you keep guys, you don't have to replace guys. I think that's the mission for Dan Lanning. And if you're an Oregon fan, you have to like that he's excelling in that mission right now. Actively working on keeping players from transferring and keeping players from going to the NFL. Is he going to light up the recruiting rankings right now? No. And is he actively working a ton right now on scheme or development? No. Right? He's trying to get his Georgia Bulldogs the national title. But what he's doing for Oregon is admirable. 541-630-4792. Hey, one last thing this segment. This is a really fun time of the year to run a radio station. Every night we've got something cool on the radio. Saturday is no exception. A Christmas football doubleheader at 1 o'clock. We have Browns-Packers at 1. We have Colts-Cardinals around 5. I'll just say it this way. I think there are 2 days a year where somebody in your family is driving around. Somebody's on the road. It's Thanksgiving and Christmas. On Thanksgiving, I drive to see my family. On Christmas, I drive to see my family. I'm going to tune into the radio. Browns-Packers at 1, Colts-Cardinals around 5. If you're driving around looking for football, we got you covered. Saturday, right here. Great doubleheader. 96.1, 580 the game. Let's talk about the Niners and their playoff chances. I've got a weird theory. Like, I'm not going to say it's certain to happen, but I think this year it feels fated to happen. This is my crazy, throw it away, ignore it if you don't want to believe it. I think it's going to happen, AFC playoff scenario. I'll share it with you next. Plus, NBA Christmas Day, and well, we'll just see. I got a lot of content I haven't even scraped tonight. Blazers, Warriors, Seahawks, Ducks, Beavs. Yeah, just, spin the roulette wheel and see what we can talk about here. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW. 96.1, 580 the game.
Feeling a bit bah humbug? Come check out Scrooge Night this Wednesday at Coastal.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, just what your holidays need.
Even a curmudgeon will find a reason to smile this Wednesday from 5 to 8 p.m. with Scrooge Night at Coastal. Save 25% off the regular price on toys, clothing, and footwear, and 10% off the regular price on most everything else in the store. Plus, save 15% on all battery-operated ride-on toys. Excludes ammo, guns, Husqvarna, Steel, Honda, live animals, all gas-powered equipment, previous purchases, gift cards, and licenses. All sales limited to stock on hand. Check out the sales flyer at coastalcountry.com. Shop in-store only at the Scrooge sale this Wednesday evening from 5 to 8 p.m. at Coastal.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, just what your holidays need.
Serving Southern Oregon from White City and Klamath Falls.
Give the gift of a reliable vehicle this Christmas from Dusty's Transmissions. Purchase a 10% off gift certificate from Dusty's Transmissions in Central Point during December and use it anytime in 2022 with an appointment. Veterans, first responders, frontline workers, and fleets receive an additional 5% discount for a total of a 15% off gift certificate that again can be used anytime in 2022 with an appointment. Give Dusty's Transmissions a call today to set it up at 541-664-6561. Dusty's Transmissions at 250 North Front Street in Central Point. The transmission expert since 1979.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, tail-wagging, backyard-hanging, and, of course, companionship.
And what breed would you say Satchmo is?
I'd have to go with maybe a lavish terrier-hound chihuahua-looking kind of mix.
Tremendous dog.
I'd also like to point out Satchmo's coloring. A white, gray, brown, black brindle. Simply marvelous.
You know, it's such a treat to watch a dog like this.
Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive. And now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance, so common with this group.
And finally, the loving face lick.
It's great how he just gets in there and, well, licks.
Fantastic. But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and theshelterpetproject.org.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580 The Game.
You might roll your eyes. You might want to ignore this. You might think I'm crazy. I'm going to throw this one out here for you. And just listen to it. Tell me what you think about it. Here's my crazy AFC playoff scenario. The Las Vegas Raiders can make the playoffs. And I don't think they're going to do anything when they get to the playoffs. I don't think they'll scare anybody. Not when Darren Waller is in a back brace. Not when Derek Carr has no protection. And not when Rich Bisaccia fails some of the most basic questions of play calling and clock management like the Raiders did Monday. But they won. And Sunday, they get to play against a Denver Bronco team starting, guess who? Drew Lock. They own Drew Lock. They have dominated him in his career. Not that that's very hard to do. A lot of defenses dominate Drew Lock. Sorry to rub salt in that wound, Broncos fans. You could have had Justin Herbert. You could have waited a year and had Herbie. Instead, you have Drew Lock. He's not that good. So I'm looking at back-to-back wins for Las Vegas. And then the question is, can they win their next two? Colts is going to be tough. Indy runs the ball really well. But so did Cleveland. And the Browns couldn't run the ball on Vegas Monday night. What if Vegas wins that game? And then week 17, they play Justin Herbert, who, yes, the Chargers beat them earlier this year. Yes. It's the AFC West. Those games are always brutal, always down to the wire. And Las Vegas beat Justin Herbert last year. They can beat him again this year. They can take one from the Chargers. I don't think they're that off from the Chargers, especially considering they arguably played their worst game of the year against the Chargers. Now, I'm biased as hell. I'm a Raider fan. There is a shot this team hits 10 wins and a shot they make the playoffs. Here's more on this. The Colts are the 5 seed, 8-6 in the AFC. They have the Cardinals this week. I think Arizona's a better team. That's a loss. They have the Raiders next week. I mentioned that one. To me, it's a toss-up. Vegas, if you run the ball at them, but they know it's coming. Like, they know Indianapolis wants to run the ball. Maybe they can stop the run. They did so against Cleveland. Maybe they can do so against Carson Wentz and the Colts. If the Colts lose those 2 games, they finish behind Vegas in the standings, out of the playoffs, or at least behind Las Vegas. Same story for the Chargers. They lost to Denver once. They play them in a while. They wrap with Las Vegas. If they lose those 2 games, they finish behind Vegas. The Bills are the 7th seed. They got to go to Foxborough on Sunday. Then they play a sneaky Atlanta team, really good team that just has a tough schedule, and a Jets team that refuses to quit. Young coach, young quarterback, they have been in games lately. They are giving it their all. It's not far-fetched for these teams to lose 2 games and Vegas to pass them, because the Raiders, I think, have a schedule they can win. I think they could go 3-0 through these 3 games. I want to hear from you. What's your crazy playoff scenario? What's the craziest, kookiest, most far-fetched thing that seems sensible to you with the NFL playoffs 3 weeks away? Who's getting in? Who's dropping out? Let me know. 541-630-4792. I read, I think it was on Pro Football Talk, I read that in the NFC, 10 teams are still in the hunt for the playoffs. And the AFC, 12 teams are still in the hunt for the playoffs right now. Like legitimate playoff chances. There's only going to be 7 spots in the conference, so somebody is going to crash the party here. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. Talking NFL playoffs, one team that can't crash the party after what happened Tuesday is the Seattle Seahawks. And we've been talking about this all show. What happens next for them? If you're in charge, do you tell John Schneider, the general manager, to pack his bags? Or do you give Pete Carroll a pink slip? Or do you say it's time to move on from Russell Wilson? Or do you do the I would call it a nuclear option because I think it might do the most damage long-term to the franchise. But do you say, hey, let's do nothing at all and bring the whole band back together for one more year? What do you do? Let me know. Let me know what you would do. I said earlier, my priority is keeping Russell Wilson. So I would sit down, talk to Russ, and find out, what do you want, right? You wanted a play caller change last offseason. You got it. Shane Waldron coming in for Brian Schottenheimer. You wanted more passing. I think you've gotten that this year. Like, when the Seahawks lost Tuesday night, I was wondering a few times, why aren't you handing off to Rashad Penny? As much as I pick on him for being a bust, being a waste of a draft pick, he was having a pretty good night. Physicality in his running. He was bulldozing defenders at the second level, but the Seahawks just didn't give him that many carries. Or DJ Dallas, who I've always liked as a third down back, really good receiving back out of the backfield. I'm wondering, why don't you line DJ Dallas up wide? Right? I like the idea of having him run that deep route at the end, but let's have him out wide all game. Let's have him play like a wide receiver sometimes and see if he can find a good matchup. Anyway, I think that Russell Wilson got the right play caller, or an improved play caller, a different play caller. Does he want a new head coach? Does he want a new GM? You got to ask him. And if the answer is yes, I think you listen to him and you do what he says. Russell Wilson should be your priority. Make Russell Wilson stay. But there's a chance Russell Wilson won't stay. Like, you know that expression, when there's smoke, there's fire? There's a lot of smoke right now that Russell Wilson is going to go to, say, the Giants or the Broncos, maybe even Las Vegas. Maybe the Raiders end up with Russell Wilson. I think that trade would make sense for Seattle because they could trade a quarterback for another quarterback. Does it make sense cap-wise? Yeah. Does it make sense on the field? Maybe if Vegas throws in some draft picks. I could see that happening. But I think what you have to ask yourself, too, is does Russell Wilson want to stay in Seattle? And that's a great question. Would he want to go to New York and have a new start on the East Coast, new market, new teammates? I think an easier division for sure. Wouldn't have to play the Niners twice every year and get crunched by Bosa and company. Arden Key going off the last few games. Wouldn't have to deal with Aaron Donald anymore. That might be worth it on its own. But is Joe Judge an upgrade over Pete Carroll? I don't think so. I think the Giants front office and the coaching staff is horrible. That roster is completely depleted. Russell Wilson jumping ship to the Giants, that's still a 4 or 5 win team to me. They're not a playoff contender, even with Russell Wilson. And then there's Las Vegas, who I've just talked about. I think off the field it makes plenty of sense, right? When your wife is a pop star, Vegas is a pretty fun town to live in. I could see where that would be a pretty good place for him and his family. I don't think the team is that good for him. That offensive line is abysmal. Derek Carr has been getting killed this year. They can't run the ball. They can't protect their quarterback. How is that an upgrade over Seattle? And then there's the coaching question. We have no idea who's going to call plays for the Raiders next year. We have no idea who's going to be their general manager next year. I think the whole building gets blown up now that John Gruden is gone. All of the people in that organization are tied to John Gruden. Everybody. So when Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, is looking at whether or not he needs to make a change at general manager or at head coach or at defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, he has to factor in that John Gruden would have lost his locker room if he'd stayed on instead of resigned. And all these coaches and GMs and scouts are friends of John Gruden. They have the exact same problem. They might lose the locker room, or they might have lost the locker room already. I don't think Russell Wilson walks into that minefield. So I don't know. New York, I scratch them off. Vegas, I scratch them off. I don't know where Russell Wilson would go. Does Russell Wilson want to stay? I think that's the big question of the offseason for the Seahawks. My guess is yes. My guess is if you make the right changes in the coaching staff and the front office, Russell Wilson will stay a Seattle Seahawk. But I'm curious what you think. 541-630-4792. Let's wrap up the show after this. I want to get your thoughts on Oregon State losing that bowl game Saturday. I talked about earlier how the Beaver offensive line, I thought, underwhelmed in that game. Utah State's defense pressured Chance Nolan. They shut the run game down, and they forced Oregon State out of their comfort zone, especially as the game wore on, second, third, and fourth quarters. The line got exposed, and you need to recruit that better. But I also think, the Beavers really had an opportunity in that game. You saw glimpses of who they can be at their best. That was the best start to a game that Oregon State has had in a long time. 1 minute in, they march down the field and score a touchdown. And then on the next drive, they do the best thing you could possibly do nowadays, right? Defenses are trained, bend, but don't break. And they bent. They let Utah State move the football all the way down the field and then picked them off in the end zone. A 7-point swing, points off the board. You could not draw that start up any better. It was absolutely perfect for Oregon State. And I think you can take a negative out of that game. You can say we have to recruit better on the lines if we want to compete with the best of the best in the Pac-12 and beyond. But you also have to say our team has a spark. If we can bring that spark, that energy that we had in the opening minutes of that bowl game, we can beat anybody. I want to hear from you. 541-630-4792. Dan Lanning and the Ducks. There are 2 points of emphasis for him. The first one is one we just covered. You've got to retain the talent you have. The second point of emphasis this offseason, you've got to add to it. And he's starting to add to it. There is a big-time transfer out of the SEC headed to Eugene. Let's talk about Bo Nix, his future at Oregon, and what he'll do for the Ducks. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, plus NFL Sunday, NBA Christmas Day. We'll wrap up the show, have a lot of fun. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW on 96.1, 580 The Game.
So if you're like me and still have some last-minute shopping to do, you need to check out Kohl's. I got my husband the green Fitbit Versa 3 for $169.99, found some great toys for 50% off, and got silver jewelry my mom is gonna love for just $17.59. I even saved an extra 20% and got Kohl's cash. So I guess you could say I got everything just in the nick of time. Get it? Flex Styles. Ends December 24th. Price valid on green Fitbit Versa 3 only. Toys and Fitbit. Coupons do not apply. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's for details.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
Or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals. But I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Jim Rome's got opinions.
Yes, Joker came with a hard foul. Yes, it was a flagrant foul. But that punishment does not fit the crime. You do not throw the MVP of the league out of a playoff game because of that transgression. And I'm here to tell you, if it were LeBron or Steph or Giannis or KD, none of them are getting run for that foul.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon on 96.1 580 The Game.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil. $15 is the best I can do. You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
From opening night to Super Bowl 56, don't miss a second of the NFL's biggest season ever. Hi, this is Kurt Warner of Westwood One. Join our crew each week for the best primetime NFL action. Thursday, Sunday, and of course, Monday Night Football. Listen to the NFL's brightest stars on Westwood One, the exclusive radio home for every primetime NFL game. Right here.
Covering football all year long, 96.1 580 The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580 The Game.
This is one of my favorite times of the year to be a sports fan because every game matters. Like in the NFL, if you win, you keep your playoff hopes alive. Seahawks-Texans, 11 a.m. pregame Sunday, 1 o'clock kick. I can't wait to see that game, honestly, genuinely. See what Davis Mills can do because he's getting better every Sunday. See what Russell Wilson will do in what could be the final glimpses of the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era in Seattle. And then Sunday Night Football Sunday, Washington, Dallas. That's a big game. Washington, they lose 2 straight. They're on the outside looking in. They need a win. They desperately need a win to keep their season alive. They might just do it. That's Sunday Night Football, 5 o'clock Sunday, right here, 96.1, 580 The Game. Both of those games on the game. Let's talk Dan Lanning for a minute, head coach of the Ducks. I talked earlier about the things I think he needs to do this offseason. Like, you need to retain the players you have. That's been priority number 1 at Oregon. Priority number 2 is add to the talent you already have. Get better at running back, offensive line, defensive line. How about quarterback? Oregon went out and got a transfer QB this week. Bo Nix from Auburn. Where does he fit in all this? Does he start for Oregon? Does he contribute for Oregon? I've always thought transfers are influenced by one factor above all else. They want playing time. And if there's another factor, it's they want to win, right? So Bo Nix wants to go to an environment where Kenny Dillingham is going to be his offensive coordinator. That's the guy that recruited him to Auburn. Dan Lanning is the new young coach of the Ducks, looking for a quarterback he can trust, a guy that was a defensive coordinator in the SEC, getting a quarterback out of the SEC. I think Bo Nix wants a better fit. He wants somewhere where he can have playing time and somewhere where he can win and feel supported. I think Bo Nix is going to get a shot to win that job. And I said on Monday when this news broke out, I fear that Bo Nix will cause reverberation in that quarterback room. What do I mean by that? When Oregon brings him in, others will have to leave. Right now, the Ducks have Ty Thompson, 5-star phenom, who many expect to win the job and have the opening snap of the year against Georgia. I'm not so sure. Not if you have an established quarterback coming in from SEC country. Then there's Robbie Ashford. There's Jay Butterfield. I think there's going to be transfers out of that Oregon quarterback room. And it pains me to say it because I really like Ty Thompson, the young guy, and I love Robbie Ashford's game. Like, we know he's an incredible baseball player, standout center fielder for Oregon. I think he could start in the Pac-12. And I think he could have been what Oregon wanted Anthony Brown to be, a dual-threat guy, great legs, and a great arm as well. So I think one of those players will leave, is my guess. And then you just got to build around Bo Nix and hope that you don't have a repeat of this year. Because he hasn't won a bunch in the SEC, and he doesn't scare a lot of the defenses that he faced. But maybe going to the West Coast, I think a much easier level of competition, no SEC defenses. Maybe that's enough for Bo Nix to turn his career around and turn Oregon around as well. We'll find out as the months progress. Still got some NFL stuff to get to. Kansas City right now the 1 seed, just like we all expected. Just happened in a roundabout way. We'll talk about all of that tomorrow at 4, right here